Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, we're diving into a topic that resonates with so many people around the globe: the profound impact of learning English on one's future. It's more than just acquiring a new skill, it's often a gateway to new opportunities, perspectives, and connections. With us today, we have someone who's navigated this journey firsthand and can share some incredible insights. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this because it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. Learning English has genuinely been a transformative experience for me, shaping not just my career path, but also my personal development in ways I couldn't have imagined before I started.
That's a fantastic way to put it, transformative. So let's just dive right in. When you first decided to seriously commit to learning English, what did you envision for your future? What were the initial hopes or goals tied to this language?
Well, initially, my goals were quite practical. I was thinking about my career. I saw English as a non-negotiable skill for anyone wanting to compete in the global job market. I wanted to work for international companies, travel for business, and access a wider range of job opportunities that simply weren't available if I only spoke my native language. I imagined being able to confidently participate in meetings, understand complex documents, and communicate with colleagues from all over the world without feeling limited or held back by language barriers. It was a very strategic move for my professional trajectory, making me a more versatile and attractive candidate in the eyes of potential employers, which has absolutely proven to be true over time.
That's really insightful, focusing on the career aspect first, and it makes perfect sense given today's interconnected world. Beyond the professional sphere, though, has learning English impacted your personal life or your view of the world in ways you didn't anticipate?
Absolutely. It's gone far beyond just work. One of the biggest, most unexpected impacts has been on my access to information and different perspectives. Before English, I was primarily consuming content, news, books, documentaries, scientific research that was translated into my native language, which often meant I was getting a filtered or delayed version. Now, I can directly engage with an enormous wealth of original content, from academic papers to the latest pop culture trends, essentially unfiltered. This has broadened my understanding of so many subjects and allowed me to form my own opinions based on a much richer pool of data. It's like having the entire world's library suddenly unlocked for you. And it's not just serious stuff either. Being able to understand jokes, memes, and cultural nuances in English-speaking media has also made me feel more connected to a global community. It's a huge shift in how I interact with information and culture, truly invaluable for personal growth and for developing a more well-rounded worldview.
That's a powerful point about access to information. It really highlights how language can break down barriers. Speaking of breaking barriers, what about travel? Has English played a significant role in your experiences abroad?
Oh, without a doubt. Travel has been completely transformed. Before English, I relied heavily on guidebooks, prearranged tours, or just pointing at things, which, while sometimes charming, was definitely limiting. Now, when I travel, especially to countries where English is a common second language, I can navigate airports, book accommodations, order food, and most importantly, connect with locals and other travelers on a much deeper level. I've had incredible conversations with people from all walks of life, sharing stories and learning about their cultures directly without needing a translator app constantly. It allows for spontaneity, genuine connection, and a much richer, more immersive experience. It's not just about getting by, it's about truly engaging with the places and people I encounter. It's like having a universal key that unlocks human connection everywhere I go, making every trip so much more meaningful and memorable.
It sounds like it's fostered a real sense of global citizenship for you. But let's be real, learning the new language isn't always smooth sailing. Were there particular challenges you faced, and how did overcoming them further shape your future?
Oh, absolutely. It definitely wasn't smooth sailing all the time, not at all. The initial hurdle was definitely the fear of making mistakes. I'd feel really self-conscious about my accent or grammar, which often made me hesitant to speak up even when I knew the answer. There were moments of real frustration, especially with idiomatic expressions or slang that just didn't translate directly. I remember feeling stuck, like I wasn't progressing fast enough, and that was tough. But overcoming those challenges, pushing through that discomfort, taught me so much about resilience and perseverance. I learned that mistakes are actually an essential part of the learning process, not something to be ashamed of. It built a lot of confidence, not just in my English abilities, but in my general capacity to tackle difficult things. That mindset has spilled over into other areas of my life. I'm now much more willing to try new things, even if I'm not perfect at them from the start, because I've experienced the reward of pushing past initial difficulties. It reshaped my approach to personal growth entirely.
That's a truly valuable lesson, and it really speaks to the broader benefits of language learning, beyond just the language itself. Looking ahead, how do you see English continuing to shape your future, both personally and professionally?
Well, I see it as a continuous journey of growth and exploration. Professionally, I believe it will continue to be a cornerstone of my career, allowing me to pursue leadership roles that involve international teams or global projects. I'm also interested in potentially delving into fields like content creation or consulting, where strong English communication skills are paramount for reaching a diverse audience. Personally, I want to keep expanding my cultural horizons. I plan to read more classic English literature, engage with different forms of media, and perhaps even spend more time living in English-speaking environments to fully immerse myself. It's not just about maintaining the skill, but about leveraging it to continually learn, connect, and broaden my understanding of the world. I feel like the initial effort I put in has given me a lifelong tool, a foundation upon which I can build countless future experiences and opportunities, continuously opening new chapters in my life story. It's a key that keeps unlocking new doors, and I'm excited to see where it takes me next.
That's an incredibly inspiring, from professional advancement to deep personal growth and truly global connections. It's clear that for you, learning English has been far more than just a language. It's been a catalyst for a richer, more expansive future. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and insights with us today. It's been truly illuminating. Welcome back, everyone, to Language Journeys, your weekly dive into the fascinating world of language learning. Today, we're tackling a question I hear all the time, one that truly resonates with anyone on this path. How do you stay motivated to keep learning English? It's not always easy, right? There are ups and downs, plateaus, and moments when you just want to give up. So, to explore this, I'm really excited to chat with our guest today, who has a wealth of experience in navigating these very challenges. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's such a crucial topic, isn't it? Because starting is one thing, that initial burst of enthusiasm, but truly sustaining that motivation over months, even years, that's where the real challenge lies for most people. I mean, you set a goal, you're excited, maybe you buy a textbook, download an app, but then life happens, and suddenly those daily lessons feel like a chore. So for me, it really boils down to having a clear why. What's your ultimate goal? Is it for travel, a new job opportunity, to connect with people globally, or maybe just to enjoy movies and books in their original form? That initial spark, that fundamental reason, is your anchor when things get tough. Without that, it's very easy to drift away.
Absolutely. That why is so important. It's like your North Star. But let's be honest, even with a strong why, the day-to-day grind can feel, well, grinding. How do you personally keep that initial spark alive? What are some practical strategies you found effective for maintaining momentum when the novelty starts to wear off?
Oh, absolutely. The novelty does wear off, and that's completely normal. One of my biggest strategies is to make learning enjoyable, genuinely fun. If it feels like a chore, you won't stick with it. So I integrate English into my hobbies and interests. If I love cooking, I'll watch cooking shows in English or look up recipes. If I'm into gaming, I'll play games with English-speaking players or follow English language game reviews. It stops feeling like studying and starts feeling like living. Another key thing is setting really small, achievable goals. Don't say, I'm going to be fluent in 6 months, because that's often unrealistic and overwhelming. Instead, aim for something like, this week I'll learn 10 new vocabulary words related to my job, or I'll listen to a 10-minute English podcast every day. Seeing those small successes accumulate is incredibly motivating. It builds confidence, you know? And speaking of building, I also make sure to track my progress. It could be as simple as a journal where I write down new phrases, or a streak counter on an app. Visually seeing how far I've come, even with tiny steps, reminds me that my efforts aren't in vain. It's like, wow, I actually understood that entire conversation last week, and a month ago I wouldn't have.
That's fantastic advice, making it fun, setting small goals, and tracking progress. I think many of us can relate to that feeling of hitting a wall, though, or what some call a plateau, where you feel like you're not making any progress even after a lot of effort. How do you push through those moments of frustration or when motivation just completely vanishes?
Oh, the plateaus are brutal, aren't they? They're inevitable, though. So the first step is to acknowledge that it's a normal part of the learning curve. Everyone experiences them. When I hit a plateau, my immediate reaction used to be frustration, but now I've learned to see it as a signal. It's a signal to perhaps change things up. Sometimes I just need a short break. A day or two away from active learning can actually recharge your mental batteries. Then, when I come back, I try a different method. If I've been focused on grammar, maybe I switch to more listening practice. If I've been doing solo exercises, I try to find a language exchange partner. Connecting with others who are also learning is huge. Sharing your frustrations, hearing their experiences, it reminds you that you're not alone. There are so many online communities, apps, and local meetups where you can find people to practice with. And honestly, just talking it out, even if it's imperfect, boosts your confidence. Also, I try to practice self-compassion. It's okay to have off days. It's okay to make mistakes. We're all human, and learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint. If you beat yourself up every time you stumble, you'll just burn out. Be kind to yourself, celebrate the small victories, and remember that consistent effort, even if it's just 10 minutes a day, is better than sporadic, intense bursts followed by long periods of nothing.
That idea of self-compassion is so powerful and often overlooked in the drive to do more. Beyond changing up methods or taking breaks, what are some of your daily habits or routines that keep English consistently present in your life, even when you're not actively studying?
This is where passive immersion really comes into play, and it's incredibly effective for long-term motivation because it makes English a natural part of your environment. For me, it starts right away in the morning. I'll switch my phone settings to English, so I'm seeing prompts and notifications in English. My morning news update, I'll listen to an English language podcast or watch a short news clip. If I'm commuting, I'm either listening to music with English lyrics and actively trying to understand them, or I'm listening to another podcast, maybe about a topic I enjoy, like history or true crime. During the day, if I'm doing something mundane like household chores, I'll put on an English YouTube video in the background. It's not intense study, but it's constant exposure. I also try to narrate my day to myself in English, even if it's just in my head. Okay, I need to make some coffee now, then check my emails. It sounds a bit silly, but it keeps the language active in your brain. And definitely reading. I always have an English book on the go, even if it's a simplified version or a children's book. The key is consistency and making it a habit so it doesn't feel like an extra task, but just part of your normal routine.
Those are fantastic, actionable tips for integrating English into everyday life. It sounds like you've really mastered making it a sustainable and enjoyable journey. As we wrap up, what's one final piece of advice you'd offer to someone who might be feeling discouraged or on the verge of giving up on their English learning goals?
I'd say remember why you started, and then look for the small wins. Seriously, celebrate every little achievement. Did you understand a sentence in a song you couldn't before? Pat yourself on the back. Did you manage to order food confidently? High five. Those small victories add up and fuel your motivation more than any grand achievement. And don't be afraid to experiment. If one method isn't working, try another. There are so many resources out there today. Apps, online tutors, conversation groups, movies, music, books. You're bound to find something that clicks with you. And finally, view it not just as learning a language, but as opening up a whole new world. English isn't just words. It's a gateway to new cultures, new connections, new information, and new opportunities. Embrace the journey, the struggles, and the triumphs. It's a skill that will enrich your life in countless ways, and every bit of effort you put in is absolutely worth it.
That's truly inspiring. Embrace the journey. I think that's the perfect sentiment to end on. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and practical strategies today. It's been incredibly helpful. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, we're diving into a topic that resonates with so many of us who've embarked on the journey of learning a new language, especially English. It's an incredible skill to acquire, opening up so many doors. But let's be real, it's rarely a walk in the park. My guest today, who's not only mastered English, but also has some fascinating insights into the learning process, is here to share their personal experience. So to kick things off, and I know this is a question many of our listeners are probably asking themselves, what was the absolute hardest part of learning English for you right there at the very beginning?
Oh, absolutely. That's a fantastic question, and one I've actually thought about a lot. When I first started learning English, I had this kind of theoretical understanding from textbooks and structured lessons. I could read okay and write fairly well within formal limits, but the moment I tried to engage in a real-life conversation, it was like hitting a brick wall. So if I had to pinpoint the absolute hardest part at the beginning, it wasn't grammar rules or even vocabulary lists, ironically enough. It was the sheer speed and fluidity of native speakers, combined with the incredibly rich tapestry of idioms, slang, and phrasal verbs. It felt like everyone else was speaking a completely different language, even though I was technically learning English.
That's such a relatable experience for so many language learners. It's like the English you learn in a classroom is one thing, and the English people actually speak is another entirely. Can you elaborate a bit more on that feeling? What specific aspects of that real-life English made it so challenging for you to grasp, especially with the idioms and phrasal verbs you mentioned? Did you have any memorable misunderstandings early on?
Definitely. I mean, seriously, phrasal verbs alone could fill a whole book of confusion. Take something simple, or what seems simple now, like get up. It's not just to rise. It can mean to wake up, to stand up, to prepare, to organize, even to dress up or to annoy someone. And then combine that with other words, and the meaning shifts entirely. It's maddening. I remember vividly, early on, I was trying to understand a conversation where someone said they needed to get over something. I knew over meant above or across, but the context was about a breakup, and I was picturing them literally trying to jump over their ex, which obviously made no sense at all. I just couldn't get my head around it, to use an idiom now. And don't even get me started on idioms like raining cats and dogs or break a leg. I once thought someone wanted me to physically injure myself before a presentation. It took me so long to understand that you couldn't translate these things word for word. You had to learn them as complete units, and there are thousands of them. The sheer volume and the non-literal nature of it all just completely overwhelmed me at first. My brain was constantly trying to process multiple meanings at once, and my comprehension speed was just nowhere near what was needed to keep up with a normal-paced conversation.
Wow, that's a fantastic example, and it really highlights the cultural and contextual layers embedded in language, beyond just the words themselves. So the listening comprehension and decoding of these nuanced expressions were a huge hurdle. What about pronunciation? Was that also a significant challenge, or did the semantic complexity overshadow the phonetic difficulties for you?
Pronunciation was definitely up there too, though maybe slightly less frustrating than the idioms, because with pronunciation, you can usually identify the correct way to say something, even if it's hard to replicate. With idioms, you just feel completely lost in translation. But yes, pronunciation, especially certain sounds not present in my native tongue, like the th sound, both voiced and unvoiced. It felt like I was constantly trying to twist my tongue into knots just to say think or through or this correctly, without sounding like I had a lisp or was biting my tongue. And then there's the rhythm and stress of English words and sentences. My native language has a more predictable, syllable-timed rhythm, whereas English is stress-timed. This meant that even if I pronounced individual words correctly, the overall flow of my speech sounded choppy and unnatural to native ears, and listening to native speakers felt like a constant stream of sounds blurring together rather than distinct words. The linking of words, the reduced sounds, it all made listening really exhausting and speaking feel very self-conscious. I'd spend hours repeating minimal pairs and trying to mimic intonation patterns from audio recordings, only to feel like I was making very slow progress.
That sounds incredibly challenging. The constant mental gymnastics required to not only understand what's being said, but also to formulate a response that sounds natural and accurate. It really drives home the idea that learning a language is so much more than memorizing rules. So, given these initial overwhelming hurdles, the speed, the idioms, the phrasal verbs, the pronunciation, how did you eventually get over that initial feeling of being lost? What strategies or mindset shifts helped you push through those early struggles and start building confidence?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? For me, the biggest breakthrough came from two main things: radical immersion and embracing mistakes. Initially, I was so afraid of making mistakes that I'd often stay silent or construct overly cautious, grammatically perfect but unnatural sentences in my head before speaking. That just slowed everything down. The radical immersion involved actively seeking out environments where I had no choice but to speak and listen to English. I started watching TV shows and movies without subtitles, even if I only caught 30% of it. I listened to podcasts, joined conversation groups, and basically forced myself into situations where I had to interact. It was uncomfortable, incredibly so, but it was effective. And the embracing mistakes part was crucial. I had to internalize that making mistakes wasn't a sign of failure, but a necessary part of the learning process. It's like learning to walk. You fall a lot before you can run. Once I started viewing errors as feedback, as opportunities to learn rather than embarrassing blunders, my confidence started to grow. I'd ask people to correct me or clarify what they meant when I didn't understand an idiom. It was about being vulnerable and persistent. It took a lot of patience and a willingness to feel silly sometimes, but ultimately, that's what moved me past those initial daunting challenges. You just have to keep showing up, keep trying, and keep speaking, no matter how imperfect it feels.
That's such powerful advice, and it's something I think all learners, regardless of the language, need to hear. Embrace the struggle, embrace the mistakes, and just keep at it. It sounds like your journey from those initial frustrations with speed and obscure phrases to fluent communication was really about shifting your approach from passive learning to active, fearless engagement. Thank you so much for sharing your honest and incredibly insightful experience. It's truly inspiring for anyone feeling overwhelmed by their own language learning journey. Your perspective really sheds light on the dedication and grit required, but also the immense reward of pushing through those challenging beginnings. What a fantastic conversation.